of all ages and backgrounds to receive job training, get a degree, or even start a new career. Washington's community and technical colleges. Better jobs, brighter futures, a stronger Washington.
Eyes forward. Don't drive distracted.
We all feel the pain at the pump.
Aw, man!
Idling more than 10 seconds harms your engine and wastes gas. Cut the waste. Cut the pollution. Let's be idle-free, 253. Learn more at tpchd.org/idlefree253.
When I never graduated from high school, I realized I wanted to go back to school because I didn't want to work these back-breaking jobs the rest of my life. With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed to come back to school. I felt accomplished, made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
I'm Thelma, and I had kidney disease for years and didn't know it.
I'm Dr. Vega. Adults with type 2 diabetes or high blood pressure can unknowingly have kidney disease, since symptoms don't usually present until later stages.
If you're at a higher risk like me, it's important to advocate for yourself. Don't be afraid to talk to your doctor. It takes two to help detect and manage kidney disease.
Partner with your doctor and ask about complete kidney disease screening, including the urine test, UACR.
Work with your doctor to get a full picture of your kidney health.
Visit testyourkidneys.com for information.
Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the Rules and Operations Committee for March 24th, 2025. The time is 10:01. If the clerk could please call the roll.
Councilmember Denson.
Excused.
Councilmember Herrera.
Here.
Councilmember Ayala. Here. Councilmember Hitchin.
Here.
You have 3 members present.
With 3 members present, we do have a quorum. Our agenda today was posted and shared. We have 2 resolutions and our regular order of business. Any changes to our work this morning? Seeing none. Do we actually have minutes? Okay, because there's no date. So we don't have any minutes, so we'll go to approving the meeting schedule for the week of March 31st through April 4th. Ms. Long.
All right, thank you and good morning. This is your meeting schedule for March 31st through April 4th. On Monday the 31st, beginning at 10 a.m., you have your Rules and Operations Committee meeting. You'll be approving the meeting schedule for the week of April 7th through the 11th and the council agenda for April 8th. There are 3 proposals on that agenda. First up is O 2025-507. That's adopting a new chapter 2.113 of the code entitled Community Needs Grant Program. That has an April 15th final hearing date. Next is R 2025-124, and this is approving additional positions in the Aging and Disability Resources Division of the Human Services Department. That has an April 8th final hearing date. And last is R 2025-130. This is confirming Julie DeMuth as the Director of the Finance Department, and that also has an April 8th final hearing date. At 11 a.m. on Mondays, your regular Monday study session with just your usual agenda items listed there, except, under other business. We do have 2 items off your regular schedule. The first is a report on the child-friendly workplace. That will be presented by Betty Capistani and Rob Allen from Economic Development. And then you do have an executive session. And I'm going to note this is a lengthy one. I haven't heard back yet for confirmation for the second part, but I have sent out to members a block to hold this time for the executive session. So just a heads up on that. Tuesday, April 1st, beginning at 9:30, you have a Health and Human Services Committee meeting. There are 2 presentations. The first is a review and overview of services from the Pierce County Human Services Aging and Disability Resources Division. That will be with Aaron Van Valkenburg from Human Services. And the other is an overview of services specific to seniors and senior centers in Pierce County, and that will be presented also by Human Services. That will be Nellis Kim. At noon on Tuesdays, your regular Tuesday study session, and I'm just seeing your usual agenda items listed here, and at 3 p.m. is your council meeting. And that is the meeting schedule for March 31st through April 4th.
Thank you. Are there any questions or changes? Seeing none, Vice Chair Herrera for motion.
Chair, move approval of the meeting schedule for the week of March 31st through April 4th, 2025.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the meeting schedule from March 31 to April 4. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The meeting schedule for March 31st to April 4th has been adopted. That brings us to our council agenda for April 1st. Ms. Long.
Thank you. This is your regular council meeting agenda for April 1st. I'll start with your consent agenda. You do have 2 items for introduction and scheduling, 1 ordinance and 1 resolution. The ordinance is O 2025-508. This is amending several titles of the code and chapters for clarifications and updates to non-development regulations. So we're looking at Title 1, Title 2 Administration, Title 8 Health and Welfare, Chapter 1304, which is the sewer administrative regulations, and Chapter 17C10, administrative provisions for the construction codes. You'll be referring this to community development and environment, and then you'll be setting the final council action date of April 22nd. Next is R 2025-129. This is initiating an evaluation of 96th Street East from State Route 162 to the Puyallup River Bridge for potential reduction of the speed limit and implementation of traffic calming measures. and requesting recommendations to be returned from the county engineer. This is for referral to EIDC, and you'll be setting the final on this for April 22nd as well. You do have one resolution for final action on your consent, and that's R 2025-128. This is confirming the appointment of 2 new members to the Pierce County Behavioral Health Advisory Board. Moving down to section 7, you do have 2 proclamations on this agenda. The first is a proclamation of the council and executive designating April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in Pierce County, and that was requested by Councilmember Hitchin. The other is a proclamation of the council and executive designating April as Human Dignity Month in Pierce County, and that was requested by Councilmember Herrera. Moving to section 8, resolutions. You have 3 items here. The first is R 2025-114. That's ratifying the sale of certain county-owned surplus real property. This is the 713 Southwest 353rd Place property. This is the property located in Federal Way. This received a due pass recommendation at Rules on March 17th. Next up is R 2025-120, and this is authorizing the executive to enter into a 1-year contract for publishing legal notices for the county. That will be heard this morning in Rules, and we'll add the recommendation to your agenda. Next is R 2025-123. This is confirming Robin Vasquez as the Director of the Human Resources Department. This will also be heard this morning in Rules, and we'll add the recommendation to your agenda. And that is the agenda for April 1st.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the agenda? Vice Chair Herrera.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a question on the proclamations, if this would be appropriate time to talk about Section 7, number 2, on the proclamation I was going to, on the human dignity. I think we talked about it in a study session about trying to shorten down some of our proclamations and maybe taking a proclamation outside the chambers here. Do I need to, but I still want it on the agenda, but do we need to like note that it's not going to be in the chambers, or how do we do that, or is that appropriate time to talk about it here?
Great question. I don't know that we have a specific, so are you asking to pull it from the council meeting schedule?
Well, I mean, I want it on there that we're going to do it, but it's just, I'm going to do it at an outside place where, outside of chambers. I mean, we talked a little bit about this, of doing it.
Yeah.
I think this long.
So we have done this a couple times, and the proclamation would be on your consent agenda, so the council would actually vote on it through approval of your consent agenda, but it wouldn't be read in the during the council meeting and presented, and then that way it's approved by the council and you can take it to your the venue that you would like to present it in.
So do we do any action here to do that, or I would?
Yeah, so I guess as part of your motion, did you already approve you already approved it?
The meeting schedule, yes, but not the council agenda.
Okay, so on your council agenda, as part of your approval, you could amend it to move item 7.2 to, where would we put this? Other items on your consent agenda.
Question. One of my colleagues has not signed on to this proclamation, and if it's on the consent agenda and she or they have to vote, how does that work?
Right, then you'd have to pull it off.
Oh.
Yeah, then you'd have to pull it off and put it under probably back where it was. Right.
Wow. I didn't know about that part.
Yeah, I didn't either, but sure. Councilmember Ayala, or Committee Member Ayala.
Would we be able to keep it as is, and rather than reading and thinking about the last signature, or if a signature would take place, rather than reading, just report out on the proclamation?
So leaving it under section 7, maybe just reading the title into the record and then. Yeah, because technically you don't vote on your proclamations.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what, yeah.
If I may, Chair, we did this before. I think we had a baseball team when the World Series, and I just went to the mall and did it instead of in here, there. I can't remember what we did.
Yeah, I think that at that time it was, I might go to Brian, you might remember as our communications proclamation.
Mr. Dominique.
Point person.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Brian Dominique, your communications manager. So with the vice chair speaking about, we had the Puyallup South Hill Little League win, or they went to the World Series. They didn't end up winning, but, you know, still, they made it to the World Series. That's pretty great. And then Ms. Long is exactly right. We moved the proclamation from the 7 to the consent agenda, and that just authorized the vice chair to go out into the community and present it. But there was obviously a unanimous decision among the council on that proclamation.
I can work on that other person.
So if you'd like, you could leave it under section 7 the way it is. Simply read the title into the record and then just announce that the presentation will occur elsewhere at a later date.
That sounds much cleaner than trying to figure out another way around this.
I was just letting people know what we're doing. So I wanted to
Yeah, and then there wouldn't be a vote, which is now the rule for our proclamations.
Correct. Which was moving it to consent agenda. I was like, but then we're voting on it. It's not a piece of legislation.
Exactly.
So, okay.
Okay, so we won't change
So
nothing.
we'll just leave it. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dominique. Thank you, Ms. Long.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Herrera, you feel like you could make a motion now?
Yep.
Okay.
We're not changing nothing. So,
Okay.
Chair, I move to approve the council agenda for April 1, 2025. As presented.
It has been moved and seconded that we approve the council agenda for April 1, 2025. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The agenda has been approved. That brings us to proposal number R 2025-123. Can the clerk please read?
Proposal number R 2025-123, a resolution of the Pierce County Council confirming Robin Vasquez as Director of the Human Resources Department.
Thank you. Ms. Long to introduce.
Thank you. So as stated in the title, the resolution before you today confirms the executive's appointment of Robin Vasquez as the Director of the Human Resources Department. Just as some background, the Pierce County Charter provides at section 3.30 that except for those positions filled by election, the executive shall appoint the chief officer of each executive department, and those appointments are subject to confirmation by a majority of the council. The Human Resources Department was created by ordinance of the council, and its functions and duties are codified at section 206010H of the code. And the required qualifications for the Director of Human Services are set forth in the code at section 207010A, which is the general qualifications for all department directors, and D, which is specific to the Human Resources Department director. And those are set forth in my staff report for your review. The council's rules of procedure at section 128-175 also provide the procedures for confirming appointments of chief officers of executive departments. And that section provides that for every appointment by the executive of the chief officer of an executive department, it shall be in the form of a resolution, which you have today, and shall be reviewed by the appropriate standing committee. The code further provides that the committee may require each appointee referred to it for consideration to complete a standard questionnaire, and that's attached to that chapter of the code to be used to ascertain the appointee's general background and qualifications. And you'll see in your materials that question is contained in there for your review. And the code further provides that any hearing on such executive appointment shall be in a meeting open to the public. And so the timing on this is today in rules, and then council final action will be next week, April 1st, before the full council.
Thank you. Anyone from the executives team have anything to add before we invite Ms. Vasquez to come up? Okay. Ms. Vasquez, would you like to come to the podium? And we'll start with an easy question, which just a little bit of letting you know that we did get your materials, and whoever put everything together, thank you. There was a really good summary of information about you. But in case any of my colleagues have questions, we'll just go from there. And I will start with just, can you introduce yourself and share one or two examples of how you create a supportive climate or within an office or team? Like, how do you make the team work? So introduction and climate. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Robin Vasquez. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the acting Human Resources Director here at Pierce County. I like to try to create a welcoming and positive climate in an office by building trust. I'm very keen on creating psychological safety, which is something that exists not between just two people, but exists for a group of people, where people feel safe taking social risks. They may feel safe, asking questions when there's an idea before the group for consideration or for a decision. It creates an atmosphere where people feel like they can admit their mistakes without it being held against them. And studies have shown that creating this kind of culture actually yields higher performing teams that innovate and work together better. So that's something that I try to focus on and bring when I'm meeting a new group of people. It takes time, right? You can't build trust instantly. But I try to model it by owning my own mistakes and being warm, but admitting when I don't know something and asking for help as well. And there's already been a lot of that. This is day 6 for me. So I'm asking for a lot of help and admitting that I don't know where everything's at yet.
Thank you for that. To my colleagues, any questions from your perspective? Don't have any? Okay. Committee Member Ayala.
Thank you, Chair. First and foremost, thank you so much for joining the team. My only question would be around our council assistants. I know that our council assistants are not necessarily part of a big collective group, but they work as independent individuals. How would you envision being a resource or support for them?
I think whether or not a county employee is a part of a collective bargaining agreement or bargaining unit, or, even for confidential secretaries, confidential assistants, people who are exempt from career service, they deserve to have a workplace that is safe and inclusive and high performing. And so one of my jobs is to create policies and practices that support that kind of environment, regardless of if you're covered by a bargaining unit or you're covered by career service or not. So I would want to be a resource, and I would want my team and HR to be a resource for everybody that works at Pierce County.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Okay. So I did prepare a second question for myself, just in case. Over the last couple of years, we've been working as a council to improve and increase dialogue between human resources and the council in regards to collective bargaining. And I'm just imagining, what are your thoughts on continuing that, or what that might look like from your perspective?
I think a big opportunity for me as I get started in this role is communication between HR and the other departments across the county and also with the council. I have a pretty lengthy, strong background in labor relations. I used to work for a union that represented public sector employees before shifting over and working for the Office of Financial Management at the state. So I have lots of experience communicating both with workers and with management and executives and elected officials on collective bargaining topics. So I kind of know where the lines are. When you're in the midst of negotiating a contract, you can't share everything because there's sort of a level of confidentiality that allows negotiations to take place in good faith. But I'm very comfortable keeping the council and the county executive briefed on how things are going at the negotiating tables.
Thank you. Well, I don't have any further questions, and I did invite my colleagues, but the plan would be if people have additional questions, they can either reach out to you because you have a county email, which is very nice. But really, again, appreciate the amount of information that was shared with the council and the public about what you're bringing to the county, and excited to see what you're going to do. So is there anything that you feel like you want to share or with us while you're here?
I'm just really excited to get started.
Okay.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And you have gotten started 6 days, so.
Yeah, day 6.
Okay. Well, this is a public hearing, so I am going to open this up to the public. So if anyone would like to address the committee on Resolution 2025-123, please come to the podium. No one's in chambers wishing to speak, so we will go online. Mr. Dominique.
Yes, for any member of the public that would like to provide comment on proposal number R 2025-123, please press the raise hand icon in Zoom or *9 on your telephone keypad. There are no hands at this time, Madam Chair.
With no hands raised, we'll close public comment, bring it back before the committee. Any further questions or comments? Well, I will entertain a motion. Vice Chair Herrera.
Thank you, Chair. I move proposal number R2025-123 to be moved to the full council with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that we forward R 2025-123 to the full council with a due pass recommendation. Any further comments? I can do a voice vote on these, yes? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, and we'll see you next week. That brings us to item number 8, which is proposal R 2025-120. Can the clerk please read?
Proposal number R 2025-120, a resolution of the Pierce County Council authorizing the county executive to enter into a 1-year contract for publishing legal notices for Pierce County.
Thank you. Ms. Long, to brief.
Thank you. Good morning again. So the proposal before you will authorize the execution of a 1-year contract between Pierce County and the News Tribune for the publication of legal notices for the county, not just the council, but all county departments. State law provides that at its first meeting in April, the council shall contract with a legal newspaper to serve as the official county newspaper for the term of 1 year commencing on July 1st. The statute further provides that the contract shall be awarded to the best and lowest responsible bidder, giving consideration to the question of circulation in awarding the contract and with a view to giving publication of notices the widest publicity. The county code at section 2106060B does allow for purchases where a special market condition exists to be directly negotiated. In this case, that provision was utilized. The News Tribune is the only qualified legal newspaper in the county which has sufficient circulation and will publish more often than once a week. So direct negotiations proceeded under that section for services as the official county newspaper. The contract that is proposed is for 1 year commencing on July 1st, 2025. The maximum contract amount is $135,000. That's the same as last year, in fact. The News Tribune publishes digitally every day and in print on Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday, and guarantees a circulation of 20,010 daily, 20,684 on Sundays. This proposal is scheduled for final consideration on April 1st, and there is department staff to answer any questions you might have. And I'll just note the bid and information from the News Tribune is contained in your materials.
Thank you, Ms. Long. I'm going to invite, do you have anything to add since you took the time to come be here in person? If you could just remind us name for the record.
All right, thank you, and good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, Russell Rigg with the Finance Department, here to ask the committee to advance this with a due pass recommendation and to answer any questions that the committee members may have. As noted in the brief, we got to do this every year, and the timing is very specific in state law. And as also noted in the brief, the amount of $135,000 should be more than enough to cover us for the year, even though this is used by all departments.
Thank you. Vice Chair Herrera with a question or comment.
Just a question on the, so it's up to 135 and it's, we get charged by just the use use of it, or how many times it's touched, or how's that work?
Yeah, so for the most part, I believe each department is kind of invoiced individually when they make a request to put out a legal notice. So each department, from what I can tell, and Bert can chuck something at me if I'm wrong, but they're invoiced individually.
And I guess second question would be like the contracts before, has it always kind of been about the same amount, or?
I don't have the exact numbers with me, but I know they do vary quite a bit from year to year. I wrote down one example in my notes that 2024's spending was just over half of 2019's. So it can vary from year to year, and I think, it just kind of depends on workload and everything.
And then the question on the, it says News Tribune digitally, or publishes digitally every day, and guarantees circulation of 20,000 daily and 20,000 something on Sundays. Is that just information they're telling us? I mean, is that trend going up or down? Is 20,000 acceptable for legal reasons of getting it out to the most ears and eyes?
Yeah, I would say it's acceptable for legal reasons. The numbers have been going down pretty significantly, as we all probably have assumed. But I don't think there's any legal issue with the circulation numbers right now.
And just my question too, another question for my own information is there other avenues that we push this out? Because the trend has been changing a little bit, demographics that pay to look at it digitally. I know it's hard for some people to look at it or buy the newspaper. What's that looking like these days?
Do you mean kind of as far as like notifying members of the public or whomever?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so I can speak to procurement specifically. We put out notices in quite a few different ways. Depending on the specific project that we're procuring or the department, we may send a notice out to industry publications. We also utilize the OpenGov platform, so anybody can register in there to receive notifications, and they can also go to the Pierce County website for procurements. And I'm sure, as far as other notices goes, I'm sure there's other avenues that other departments utilize as well.
Yeah. Thank you for highlighting other avenues. This is just not the sole communication thing. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee Member Ayala.
Thank you, Chair. Just one quick question around the digital footprint. Do we know if those numbers are related to like the news section of the newspaper, or if it's just overall footprint of viewership?
I'm not 100% sure on the digital numbers. I believe that's their subscriber count, and that's why they're guaranteeing that. But, as far as who may see it, I assume those numbers could be greater, kind of depending on who accesses that legal notice section, which I believe is free to access.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and thank you for fielding all our myriad of questions. Any further comments? Okay, seeing none, I would like to open this up for a public hearing. Thank you so much for being here in person. Really appreciate it. If there's any member of the public that would like to speak on Resolution 2025-120, please come to the podium. There are no members of the public in chambers, so we will go online. Mr. Dominique.
For any member of the public that would like to provide comment on proposal number R 2025-120, please press the raise hand icon in Zoom or *9 on your telephone keypad. There are no hands at this time, Madam Chair.
With no hands raised, we'll close the public comment and bring it back before the committee. Any further questions? Okay. Well, then I will entertain a motion. Oh, there we go.
Sure. Okay, thank you, Chair. I move proposal number R 2025-120 to be to move to the full council with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that we forward R 2025-120 to the full council with a due pass recommendation. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We will forward R 2025-120 to the full council with a do pass recommendation. That brings us to number 9, which is other business. Is there any other business before the committee this morning?
Not this morning, thank you.
With no other business before the committee, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.